Good afternoon, Good Shepherd. It's Wednesday, August 4th. A lot to talk about today. Some of you may suspect that. I've got some kind of bad news, some sad news, and then what I think is really some pretty good news. And they're all sort of interrelated. First, the bad news, and I don't think I'm the only one to have let you know this. I was in a conversation yesterday with Canon Carl Andrews and a number of other clergy. Canon Carl has been sort of overseeing and interpreting the diocesan response to COVID. And he's been in good conversation with health officials and things like that. What he told us yesterday, and this is the bad news, is that Children's Hospital in Denver is full. The beds are full, and they're full because of the Delta variant of COVID. And that is bad in and of itself, that so many have been hit by this variant of the virus. But what it really means is that our children are unprotected. They can't receive the virus, and that there are enough carriers out there who are, sort of infecting the kids with this virus. And what he reminded us on the call yesterday is that those of us who have been vaccinated can still be carriers, asymptomatic carriers of the variant. And that's why we're hearing information coming out from the CDC and Tri-County and various governments, municipalities, about the resumption of masking. And I have not received yet, although I've been told it's coming, further instruction from the Office of the Bishop about this, but my suspicion is, strong suspicion is that should you join us for worship on Sunday at Good Shepherd, we will ask you to wear a mask. And again, this is not to keep you from getting it, it is to keep us from being unintentional carriers and therefore spreaders of the virus to those who are most vulnerable, that being the kids. So again, the issue is not, I want to protect me. We as Christians want to protect others. And so that's why we'll probably be asking you to wear a mask on Sunday. So that's sort of the bad news. Semi-related to that, and this is a mixture of sad and glad, is that we did receive confirmation from the bishop's office that the celebration for new ministry, glad, is going to be on August 26th at 5 p.m. The sad news, which is related to the increase in the cases of COVID, is that we're looking like we're going to have to be able to do it outside. If we were to do it inside, it would be masking for everybody and social distancing, and we wouldn't be able to get very many people there. So unless we hear otherwise from the Office of the Bishop, my strong suspicion is that we will be doing that ceremony outside, and we're going to start working on how we will be able to make that happen for the most number of people and to keep it joyful and positive and forward-looking. So again, that was a little bit sad because it would have been fun to be able to do it inside and have the organ and all of that stuff that we would normally have inside. I'm not sure that that's going to happen. And now it's only 3 weeks away, so we've got to get the planning underway soon. And then the last piece, which I think is really good news, has to do with how we will regather come September as a worshiping community. You all know that we've been working on this for quite some time, trying to figure out what the best ways to do this are, who's involved, what impact any decision has on all of the various ministries, whether it's the altar guild or ushers or the music groups, all of those kinds of things. We've talked as much as we can with as many parishioners as we could. We've invited people to be parts of conversations, to submit answers to surveys, all sorts of things. And we gave all of this information, collected and gave it all to a very, very competent team of parishioners to draw up some recommendations and a proposal. And they did that. They met a week ago last evening and came up with a proposal, which then went to the vestry. And the vestry voted on it over the weekend and said, yes, this is the right way to go forward. Recognizing that it is our best guess going forward, that nothing is perfect. Of course, it wasn't perfect before COVID either. There were folks who had lots of things to say about various aspects of how we were doing things before COVID. And so we're going to come out of COVID trying some different things. Before I go into that, just want to remind you who was on the team that helped collate all of this information, to pull it all together and make these recommendations. The team, the task force was co-chaired by Tom Billings and Ellen Blackburn, both members of the vestry. Also on that task force were Mark Kelly, Jim Ball, Susie Street, Marge Pagula, Thomas Leonard, Andy Folkerth, and me. It was a great team, and I will have something more to say about that in just a second. So before I show you what the fall is going to look like, I've got it on a nice chart, maybe help you visualize a little bit. I want to read the letter that the revisioning team sent to the vestry, the cover letter with the proposal. And so you can hear what our experience was. Dear friends, that being the vestry, attached is our next best guess about how Good Shepherd should gather as a worshiping community beginning on September 12th. You'll note we propose that we follow this schedule until Advent. This should allow for enough time to see how it works or doesn't, as well as to get a goodly portion of the audiovisual technology installed. And as you know, we've got a team working on that. They finally received all 3 proposals. They're starting to work through those, and we'll move forward as we can and as we can afford to get new audiovisual technology installed in our worship spaces. And it will be the availability of that equipment that will help, that'll affect anything that we do moving forward. We may have to make some adjustments because we can do that, and that's good news. The letter goes on to say, we believe that the team we drew together to draft this proposal was extraordinary. Not only did they represent just about every group within the congregation, but the number of hours they spent in prayer, conversation, reading, and sifting through documents, all of that was equally extraordinary. As I said in my midweek moment last Wednesday, we were all humbled by the amount of love for Good Shepherd that was present in that room the previous Tuesday night. We think the proposal is sensible. It clearly harkens to the past without keeping everything from pre-COVID land times. It recognizes what we've learned from our time in COVID land, and it adds in some new features, taking opportunity of the new times. So while we welcome questions and concerns and suggestions, we also recognize that there are details implied in the proposal which we will iron out over the next several weeks. So as you see it and read Mark and learn from it, we know that there will be some questions. Some of those we have answers for now. Some of them we're going to have to iron out in the next several weeks. So here is what the proposal will look like. This is what the proposal, what our schedule for a Sunday morning will look like beginning on Sunday, September 12th. On the left, you can see in blue, we will have 2 worship services in the morning, one at 7:45 and one at 10:30. Both services will have music. Both services, ultimately, our hope is to have both services either streamed or Zoomed. We'll start with just Zooming the 7:45 service. Both services will have music. Both services will be Eucharist. Both services will have sermon. So it will be very much like it was pre-COVID. We aren't certain where the 7:45 service will be held. It will depend on our technological capabilities to get music that works in the space with a worshiping community that will also work broadcast through Zoom. We're not quite sure we've got all of the technology worked out for that, so we're going to have to make do with what we can. But we want to make sure that we have in-person worship at 7:45. Then the reason for the move of the later service from 10 to 10:30 is so that we would be able to do what we're starting this fall. We've been Connie, choir director, has asked that we move to a Sunday only choir, which means that we need to have time on Sunday morning for the choir to rehearse. There are some really good reasons for this, and we'll see how it goes. But it means that there will be an extra half hour between those two services, and that will allow for the traditional choir to rehearse and for morning song to warm up. What it will also do, it will also allow for a more relaxed period of time between those two services. Clergy are rushing like mad between those two services, especially if one of us has to teach the Faith Forum. What this will allow is some time for people coming out of that first service to grab a cup of coffee and have some conversation before the Faith Forum starts. For me or other clergy to meet people and talk with them before having to run away to teach. All of these things will be possible now with a little bit wider space. And it also means the Faith Forum can be a full hour rather than a speedy 40 minutes or something like that. We're also planning on offering childcare during that time, so that if there are parents who want to sing in the choir but haven't been able to because they've had to worry about kids, we've got that covered. If there are parents who would like to participate in the Faith Forum but couldn't because they had to worry about kids, we've got that covered. We will take care of the kids in a safe atmosphere. This is not Sunday school, it will just be childcare. And we'll provide activities or something for them to keep them busy and safe during that time when the adults are either in choir or in Faith Forum or just simply in the parish hall having a conversation with some other adults. And then at about 10:15, we will shift into sort of the more normal Sunday mode with nursery care, and then the kids will go into Sunday school, rejoining us as they have in the past at the peace in the second service. And then there will be coffee hour after both services, as has been the case in the past. One of the other major changes is that the second service on Sunday mornings we heard from a lot of people that there was a great love for the blended music service. There's also a fondness for a contemporary only service and a fondness for a traditional music only service. And we decided that we would do the very Episcopalian or Anglican thing and kind of go right down the middle. And so on the second and fourth Sundays, we will have blended music. On the first Sunday of the month, it will be traditional choir. And on the third Sunday, contemporary choir. And on the third Sunday of the month, it will be traditional choir. So that visitors, will hear a variety of expressions. Each group will have an opportunity to shine on its own. It will allow for a little bit more flexibility for those groups and a little more rehearsal time in some respects for them. And I know that choir directors always love more rehearsal time. And then the last thing that we have done is Sundays at Good Shepherd are no longer going to have a weekly 6 p.m. service. There's been some questions about that service ever since, or even before I came on 3 years ago. And what we've decided to do is to take that off the map for the foreseeable future and replace it in some respects, but not entirely. But with a once a month, this being on the third Sunday, a once a month service at 4 p.m. That would be aimed primarily at families. We know that Sunday mornings are difficult for families a lot of times because of kids' involvement in other things. Sunday evenings with a 6 o'clock service, hard to get home in time for dinner. And so we decided we would try a 4 o'clock service with the option for folks to hang around for a potluck afterwards. for some more opportunities for fellowship. And our hope is that we will also help provide some materials and resources for families to use on those Sundays that they can't be here, whether it's in the morning or at another point. So we're hoping that this will address some needs of families, of growing families, but also provide another opportunity for people to experience worship in a slightly different way. And the music at that service will all be contemporary. And then the fifth Sunday, of course, will be Youth Sunday, and that's kind of whatever goes, we'll work it, and that will be great. So that's our intent for what we're going to do during the fall. Again, it's not set in stone for after that, but we want to give it time to see how it works. Trying it 1 or 2 weeks, that's not it. We've got to see how it's going to work over the course of a season, and that's what we're going to do this fall. There will be some opportunities that we will provide for conversation about this. There will be links to this chart and some of the other stuff coming up in the e-news tomorrow and then in the sheepskin. So you'll see that we'll post the chart here in the church so that if you come in and you want to take another look at it, especially as there are other people who are hanging around and you want to talk about that, you can. That's all I want to say about that right now. Again, I'm so grateful for the work of the team. It was a labor of love. And they were grateful. Everybody talked about how grateful they were to engage in what they also said was very, very hard work, realizing the responsibility that had been entrusted to them. So I just want to close with a prayer, and that is a prayer for courage, a courage as we move forward. Oh God, give us courage to make experiments and not to be afraid of making mistakes. Courage to get up when we are down and to go on again. Courage to work with all our might for the coming of the kingdom on earth. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.